This video is going to be on the, yes, you read it right, the death of secondary research. Is it a thing? Because we always talk about it in academia. Is secondary research done for when you have tools like Elicit, ChatGPT, Copilot? They're essentially removing the onus on students to do the work themselves. And by work, I mean the critical thinking, critical engagement, reading, actual reading of the books. It's kind of a lost art, it's a lot of these tools are forcing students to sort of say, you know what, I actually don't need to read it. Why should I go to the library? You're 5 million years old telling me to go to the library. What is a book? Blah, blah, blah. Now, as we move further and further into the destruction and decay of our society through the erosion of academia, I'm kind of joking, but at the same time, you can see it there. Academic writing is becoming obsolete. Grammarly is taking care of a lot of legwork for a lot of people. Chat PDF, people are just getting the thing to read the books for them. And Elicit, which I'm going to talk about in this video, and other programs as well, that's also doing the work for students too. So at that point, what's left for the student to do? What is a student anymore? Are they just basically someone that comes in and goes, I'm a data cleaner? ChatGPT, Elicit, Copilot, they did all the work for me. All I did was make sure that the work they gave me was correct. So yeah, look, this video challenges the benefits of the tools, what colleges can do to integrate the tools, should they integrate the tools. And then it's going to have a demo of me throughout the video using Elicit, showing people how to use evidence tables, lists of concepts, and chatting with the papers. We're at that point of our civilization now where we can chat to books and say, I can't be arsed reading you. Please just tell me what you're about, That's why I talk about the erosion of humanity. We've got to the point where we're not even interested in people's stories. We're just like, well, we just have a chat with someone and we're just like, do you know what? I don't care. Just give me a summary of your life and I'll figure out if I want to be friends with you or marry you or have children with you. That's where we're going. We're just reducing each other to just simple dating profile-esque characteristics. There's another video. There's always scope for another video with me, but there's another video for the gamification and Tinderification of academia, where everything is just being reduced to, I don't have time to read your profile. Just give me the gist of it, okay? And I'll figure it out later if I want to bother with you. That's academia now. A lot of these tools are based on those parameters, I think anyway, where it's like, it's almost born out of laziness and desperation, which epitomizes online dating. And ultimately, the more lazier we get, the more we hand over responsibility to a computer or an AI to say, you do it for me. The more we suffer then as a consequence of that, because ultimately we go to college to learn something. And if we just go to college to learn that we're useless in the grand scheme of things, it's not a great life lesson for us as a civilization to continue on. Do we bother just continuing on at that point, So what we want to do here is we want to just narrow this down a bit. So what we can do is we can look at climate resilience planning. Okay, let's just grab that and let's just make things a bit more easier here. So we can say Ireland and UK. So what we can do is let's just take the most cited papers in that arena. We're going to click them here. So that's going to give us 8. And we want to basically have a chat with those papers. So we can go down here and say chat with papers. And if you're doing a literature review and you're feeling a little bit lazy and you kind of want to say to yourself, okay, I want to look at, actually, let's just do the simplest thing. Create a lit review from these papers. So it's going to do the whole chat PDF thing, and it's going to do what we just did above here with getting the most common quotes. And what it's actually going a step further here, because these are just the quotes, there's no actual narrative to it, but the chat with the papers is the narrative. Now look, this is a literature review, essentially, I mean, it's giving you it's using those 8 papers and it's crafting a narrative around it. It's quite a simple narrative. I wouldn't suggest that it's anything great, but it is giving you an idea of where you could progress with your literature review if you were stuck. And all these little things here are links to the paper. So if you click it, you can see here, there's the whole paper. So if you're ever in doubt as to whether it has steered you wrong, just check the footnotes it's giving you here. It's quite robust, Now you can ask for more. You can say, make it more detailed and engage with literature more. And let's just ask for 4K words. So you can just keep at it, you just keep annoying it until it gives you more and more and more. So yeah, it's giving you more there, it's giving you stats. So if you were to do your literature review on this topic, this is not a bad place to start because it's after giving you the, I hesitate to call it a skeleton because it's quite fleshed out, but it's a good, I'm hesitant to even call it a good start as well, because you could take this, it's still going, you could just take all of this and then go, okay, let me just polish this up a bit with some academic writing, with some flow and coherency and cohesion. But this is a literature review. It's a badly, presented literature review. It's very descriptive. But for many students, turning a descriptive literature review into a critically engaging literature review is much easier than doing it from scratch. So obviously this is going to pose problems for assessment of secondary research. Where do we go from here in terms of assessment and grading? Do we just tell students, okay, look, go on to Elicit, put in your keywords, pump out a literature review, and then spend the next couple of weeks refining it and adding to it? Because this is a literature review, in its basic form. It's got references here, and all of this just comes from 8 papers. So what you could do is then you could copy and paste all of this into a Word document and then, get another 8 papers and just ask it the same question. And then once you have those 2 columns of 8 papers each on the same topic, you could just ask ChatGPT or Copilot to merge them together. Or you could do it yourself, whatever stage of laziness you're at, or whatever stage of, cheating you're at. This is why it's very important to have ethical guidelines, policies, showing students the initial, because when I demo this to students, their mouths on the floor because they're like, I don't have to work ever again. I don't have to go to a library. I don't have to do anything anymore. And once that initial, joy passes over them, then you can kind of hit them with, look, it's not entirely reliable. You still have to check everything here because you can't fully trust an AI. Make sure you check every single detail here is correct. And then we don't become researchers anymore. We just become data cleaners in a sense. We're checking the validity of everything. But yeah, look, you can go even further. You can just go provide a narrative only on the limitations. So you can just keep at it, keep asking questions, refine it further. Maybe your supervisor said, that's a very good literature review, but you need to focus more on the limitations. Well, there you go. Look, that's just the thing now, focused on limitations. It's dragging in quotes. It's giving you the footnote for the quote. You can also, let's go down here and let's just be systematic about it. Let's just say compare and contrast the papers. So there you go, compare and contrast the papers in a narrative, 3 keywords, okay? So we have our limitations here. So there you go. So it's comparing and contrasting the approaches, the challenges, and the progress made in both countries, highlighting key similarities and differences. So that's one particular approach that is taken. So rather than comparing the papers, it's compared Ireland and the UK's approach to it, with reference to the papers. And then it's provided a conclusion there, future directions, progress, innovations, all that sort of stuff. It's pulled it from what we have here, or because it's building on itself. So everything you put into these little chat boxes, it just builds on it. So yeah, look, that's just a quick look at the chatting with the papers part of it. So put in your keywords here, you get a summary of the top 8 papers. You can choose what papers you want. You can keep loading more of them. And then you can just keep adding columns. And if you're doing a systematic review, if you find the papers you're doing your review on, you can just add them in here. And then you can, where's the thing here? You can import them. You know, you can import your papers down here. There's a add new step. You know, extract data from uploaded papers. Essentially, you're just doing the chat PDF thing, but you're creating an evidence table from it. And then you're refining what headings in the evidence table you have to do that. Then you're doing a thematic analysis on not the papers here, but papers around this topic. And the final answer is basically giving you the most important topics on that issue and quotes relating to those topics. And then the final form is just to basically say, stage 1 and 2 above, the evidence table and the concepts, you know, that's all well and good. That's an audit trail. It's showing you evidence of where everything comes from. Essentially, whatever the future looks like with doing a thesis, if you hand up your thesis and then hand up your workings, this is essentially what you're handing up. Look, here's all the prompts I use. Here's the evidence table. Here's the list of concepts. And here's me just basically saying to the AI, hey, look, just write the literature review for me. You have all the evidence. You have all the information. Just do it for me. And then hand me up something that I can clean and check myself. And that's Elicit to a T. So yeah, look, that's Sinead. That's the Elicit war machine that's been, you know, battering academia at the moment. But look, you know, research in any direction is still research. Progress is progress. That's it. That's it for everyone, you know. That's what we're trying to deal with in college at the moment. What the hell do we do with it? It's too powerful. At what point does your work become someone else's? I mean, you saw how easy it was. I mean, you can just sort of say, here, look, just do the thesis for me. You match Elicit with ChatGPT and Copilot, Chat PDF. You get enough of them here, you know, and you get someone like myself to sort of say, I will help you clean your thesis. I will help you write it. I will help you bury the lead, like I'll give you an audit trail and I'll bury anything that shows you cheated in this. That's a horrible combination. That's a combination that's sort of saying to yourself, well, academia is done. We're done now with academia. We're done with secondary research. Where do we go from here? Now, in relation to ethical research, all of this is all well and good, and it targets the creation of material that is primary data or research, which is your intro, your conclusion, your discussion. However, it still does not tackle the issue of data collection, namely the literature review. One thing that's still in my mind is, especially in relation to programs like Elicit, is does this mean the death of secondary research? Now, secondary research has long been a cornerstone of academic and professional inquiry. It involves gathering and analysing existing data from various sources. And those various sources can be books, articles, reports, a whole host of different things. And basically, what you're looking to do is you're trying to derive insights and trying to inform decision making. You're trying to engage with it, essentially. Now, anyone who's done this will know that the process is not only labour intensive, but it's time consuming. Oh no, it's the meta-analysis video. Even I don't want to be here. And we've all been there pre-AI, and even, during AI, of locating relevant information. We're trying to synthesize findings. We're trying to ensure the reliability of sources. We're trying to find the sources we looked at 3 months ago, 3 years ago. We're trying to find that page number. We're going to make sure that those references are in the correct referencing style, etc., etc. We've all been there. We sat in the library, we read a book, we got to the last page. It took us 3 hours, and then we realized there is absolutely nothing in the book that's relevant to my research question. And many studies have highlighted this frustration. We have this inefficiency of traditional research processes and how it's led to a growing frustration among researchers. I think it's always been there that we're always looking for this more streamlined and quicker alternative. And I think when tools like Elicit came along, we all said to ourselves, oh my God, it's here. Finally, this thing I've been looking for my whole life. Now it's here. And when it arrived, we suddenly said to ourselves, oh, it's now doing it for me. I'm not actually engaging with this at all. It's become much more, sort of content specific. It now has evidence tables. I can chat with the papers. I don't actually need to read them. And if you're worried about hallucinations, or is what it's given me, is that true or not? Well, the link is there now to Semantic Scholar and to the papers themselves. On the page, it's after generating the summary from. So now you're thinking to yourself, okay, so I don't see the benefit of sitting in the library anymore with 20, 30 books on the table, and kind of saying to yourself, okay, somewhere in those books is the answer to my research question. What if it's not though? So we rely on prescribed reading lists by our lecturers. Beyond that prescribed list, we go off ourselves, we do search strategies, we search databases. We hope to God that what we find has some sort of relevance to our research question and objectives. But what if it doesn't? How much time have we wasted then in the process of it? So I think it's important in this question we have here is, do tools like Elicit cause the death of secondary research? And what I mean by that is, do we need to engage in secondary research, traditional secondary research anymore, if there's tools that are just going to get better and better and better at doing it, and just provide us with the workings? And if that same tool provides us with the workings of how it did it, and we can fact check it instantly and say, no, that's actually legitimate. It's actually pulling from those papers perfectly. Can we then look a student in the face and go, you see this tool here? This does everything perfectly for you, but we want you to go to the library and do it the old-fashioned way. Is that right? Is that something that we should encourage? Because ultimately, that student is going to enter a workforce where they're going to be rewarded for doing stuff efficiently and quickly. And if we let them leave college with only the traditional old-fashioned way of doing something, they're not going to be very attractive to a future workplace. Now, of course, we can't get away from the classic term critical thinking when all these questions are brought up. And of course, it's a fundamental cognitive skill that involves the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue, usually to form a reasoned argument. And that develops from us reading stuff, engaging with it, moaning about it, losing sleep, losing hours in the library. It all develops into our character of a critical thinker. And it's often been noted that AI tools, while useful in streamlining these tasks, it can weaken essential cognitive functions by promoting passive consumption instead. There is a funny sort of parallel or comparison to be made with a chief manager who essentially wants research done into something. So they get the people, I hesitate to use the word below them, but the people below them to go off and do research on that particular topic. And they will produce a report, a smaller report, and hand that to the manager. And the manager will make a decision based off that report. Now, tools like Elicit essentially gives us all infinite research assistants working to produce a report for us. Now, that's not to say that we do no work. It just means that our responsibilities have changed now, and that our expertise, like that manager, is needed elsewhere. We don't have time to go and read all that stuff. Other people will do that for us. And then we'll make an informed decision based on that secondary data to go off and create primary data. We all see, we're back at the famous crossroads again. Over-reliance on AI for information processing. Where's the line? How much is too much? Students who previously had to read and analyze multiple sources to understand the concept can now just put a query into Elicit and receive an instant answer. And they can do it with ChatGPT, ChatPDF, multiple tools. So instead of evaluating the reliability and validity of multiple sources, users may accept AI-generated content at face value now. And even if the content they receive is 100% factually correct, it still does lead to a superficial understanding of complex topics. And of course, it does lead to the erosion of traditional research skills. At this point, you could ask yourself, do those traditional research skills still work in today's modern world? A world which is constantly changing and at breakneck speed. One of the most critical aspects of research is evaluating the credibility of sources, and AI-driven search engines and summarization tools often present information without transparency. And as a result, users may fail to distinguish between peer-reviewed academic research and less credible materials. This can obviously lead then to misinformation, biased conclusions, or, the trust me bro sources. Another issue, of course, is instead of reading the paper or the book, students and researchers now rely on AI-generated summaries or abstracts. And this can, in my opinion, short-circuit the learning process, as deeper comprehension often comes from reading complex texts in their entirety. And even the stuff that's superfluous to your research question, you're still learning something. You're learning that, hey, that's not important to my study, but another study I might do, hey, that can be important there. And you also learn your own writing style and thinking style by saying, I would have done it differently, or I actually have a different way of thinking from this person. There's also the issue that when AI presents pre-digested information, users are less likely to develop their own analytical frameworks, as I just said. And this, of course, weakens their ability to synthesize and interpret data independently, and it also stifles their own growth as researchers themselves. However, that's only if they want to become researchers themselves. Now, the motherlode of issues, bias in AI-generated content. As the AI models are trained on vast data sets, there's going to be a lot of bias inherent in human-generated content. And if researchers rely too heavily on these AI-generated responses, this may inadvertently reinforce these biases instead of questioning or challenging them. One example in relation to algorithmic bias is that an AI model trained on predominantly Western academic literature may then overlook diverse perspectives from non-Western scholars. Now, this reinforcement of popular opinions, which often happens in the West versus non-West debate, is that many AI models will then prioritize commonly accessed and highly ranked sources. And this can reinforce dominant narratives while suppressing minority viewpoints. It's the same way how the algorithm works on YouTube, TikTok, all that sort of stuff. I'm hesitant to say that the cream rises to the top. I think, if we spend more than 15 minutes on those platforms, we can see that the cream definitely does not rise to the top. So yeah, this reinforcement of popular opinions, this can lead to a homogenization of thought where researchers are exposed to the same perspectives over and over and over again. And it just limits intellectual diversity. And we come back to the same arguments again, that researchers should use AI as a supplementary tool rather than a primary source of information. And engaging with full-text articles, questioning AI-generated responses, cross-referencing multiple sources, this can all help maintain analytical rigor. And it does obviously promote media literacy and source evaluation, and it does balance technology with traditional methods, the complementary approach, as I just mentioned.